Good day and welcome to the gardens here at Home Sweet Home Museum. Home Sweet Home Gardens consist of plants from the 17th, 18th, 19th, and some from the 20th century, all having to do maybe with the life of John Howard Payne, the history of East Hampton, or gardening in general. And I'm standing in front of the Casablanca lilies. These only bloom several weeks a year. We are now at the end of July. They're at their height. Please come here to visit not only the Casablanca lilies, but the many other historical plants that we have here. The landscape gardener Loretta O'Ryan and her assistants, Eric and Michelle Krug, have worked very hard to make this a separate part of the tour at Home Sweet Home. You are welcome at any time to come to Home Sweet Home, walk around the building, and look at the gardens. So remember, there is no place like the gardens here at Home Sweet Home Museum. Please come and visit. Have a good day. And now I'm going to take you into the walk, and we're going to talk a little bit about the house itself and its history, okay? Home Sweet Home was built probably about 1750, what you see here. There wasn't an original house in 1720, and it was renovated in 1750. So what you see here now is the 1750 rendition, probably done by Elisha Jones Sr. And one of the aspects of this house, by the way, this house is a salt box, which is high on the south side, low on the north side. Most of the windows are on the south side. But what of special interest here is the plaster cove cornice right up here, which is a very elegant feature of this house. They built this house or renovated it, had wealth. And that's Elisha Jones Sr. And when we go inside, we will see some of the paneling that he also had put into the house, plus all the other work that was done. Now I want to move up here. Remember, the front door in a salt box is not facing the street. And this house remained in this condition until 1907, when a Mr. Gustav Buch and his wife bought the house, fixed up the inside, and then added this section right here, which became their summer kitchen and their servants' quarters. And then in 1980, the village put it into a gallery, which you're going to see when you come in. Also, the windmill was moved here in 1917 by Mr. Gustav Buch, the man who bought the house. It was not on this spot. It's a typical grist mill of the English variety. And if you want to know more about the mill, I'll take you outside later on after the tour. Also, if you look around, even though it's a little spare right now, if you come here in July, June, July, or August, you'll be able to experience the historical gardens that we have here at Home Sweet Home Museum. Since this time of the year that we're doing the tour is early May, everything, of course, is not blooming yet, but come back in the summer and you will be able to view an historical garden of great proportions. Now I think I'd like to take you inside to the gallery area, where we'll talk a little bit about Mr. Payne. Then I'll take you through the house, and you can see the artifacts, fine chinaware, furniture, and textiles that we have in Home Sweet Home. Okay, welcome to the gallery area of Home Sweet Home, which was the summer kitchen and servants' quarters of Mr. and Mrs. Buch, who bought this house in 1907, and they lived here for 20 years. Now it's a gallery area, and in the gallery, of course, the focus is on John Howard Payne. John Howard Payne was our first great actor and playwright in this country. He was the first American-born actor to play Hamlet. He went to England in 1812 to study for a year, and he stayed for 20, and he became an important actor and playwright in England. And of course, he wrote the words to one of the most famous songs, Home Sweet Home, which appeared in a little operetta in 1823 at the Covent Garden Theatre in England called Clario, the Maid of Milan. Mr. Payne wrote over 50 different pieces for the theater. He was a consular official in Tunisia, where he died. He fought for American copyright laws, and most everything that he's done has been obscured by the words to his famous song, "Mid pleasures and palaces, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home." Mr. Payne died in 1852, and he was buried in Africa, but in 1883, his remains were brought back to America, and he is buried in Washington, D.C. When Mr. and Mrs. Buke bought the house in 1907 from the church next door, it was already called the John Howard Payne Cottage, because people thought that John Howard Payne was born in the house. This house I'm going to show you, no. He wrote the song in the house, no. His grandparents lived in the house, no. Much of these stories were started by the Mulford family next door, particularly Henry Mulford, who owned the house. But Payne did come to East Hampton several times. He could have seen the house. He could have written the song about this house, but that is up in the air. But Mr. and Mrs. Buke still made it a shrine to John Howard Payne. Besides the many fine artifacts you're going to see, they scoured the country for everything they could find out about Mr. Payne and put it in the house. So I think it's time now to start our tour, and then we'll go into the kitchen first, okay? Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buke did not use this as their kitchen. In other words, this fireplace is not a typical fireplace from years ago. It was jerry-rigged around by Mr. and Mrs. Buke. This was a storage area when Elisha Jones owned the house in 1750. But now it's a typical colonial kitchen that you see in many of these old homes, with the usual suspects, as we call them, in front of the fireplace, where you have the pot, the andirons, the rotisserie kind of stove, and all the other kinds of instruments. This is a typical colonial revival kind of a fireplace. Mr. and Mrs. Buke have a collection of pewter. They actually used it. And pewter, of course, as you know, the main ingredient is tin, but if you didn't have tin, you had to put lead in it. And the more lead you used, the more difficult it was to take it. When you mixed it with acid like wine and cider or tomatoes, would react with the lead, and it would not be good for your health. He also has something called Britannia-ware, which is a little shinier and thinner than the pewter. Okay? The other thing that this kitchen would be known for is the Staffordshire, or the blue, these blue dishes that were made in England between 1820 and 1840 and shipped to America, mass-produced. And when people could afford this, they stopped using pewter. We have now restored this kitchen to what it looked like when Mr. and Mrs. Buke were here. There was a huge display case put up here by the village when they bought the place in 1927. We have taken the display case away, and this is what the wall looked like when Mr. and Mrs. Buke were here from 1907 to 1927. And now I think we should move into the lusterware room. This is another thing that this house is known for. It's the tremendous lusterware collection that Mr. and Mrs. Buke amassed. Before he bought the house in 1907, Mr. Buke had a huge lusterware collection. Lusterware is made with platinum. It's a very thin coat of platinum over the pottery. Platinum did not tarnish, and it was less expensive than silver at that time. Also in this display case over here, you also have another kind of lusterware. There are several hundred pieces of lusterware in this house. The problem with lusterware, of course, is that if you washed it, it would tarnish very quickly. I mean, not tarnish, it would wear away, and then if it fell on the floor, it would break into 100 pieces. Typical of what happened here is Mr. and Mrs. Buke received things from other people concerning John Howard Payne. This was given actually after Mr. Buke died. In 1944, a family gave this to the museum because it was done by John Howard Payne's sister in a school here in East Hampton, run by Mrs. Roxana Beecher, the wife of Lyman Beecher, who was the father of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who did not live in East Hampton. Mr. Buke and Mrs. Buke collected these large lusterware pictures. They're famous for that too. This was probably in a store window for advertisement. Another interesting thing about lusterware is that this yellow lusterware is very rare, very valuable. Why? Because nobody liked it, so they didn't make a lot of it. So that's just a little quirk. There are two kinds of, well, this is a typical Chippendale like mirror. They call it Chippendale style. This is not made in the Chippendale, by the Chippendale factory, but it's made to look like it. It's called Colonial Revival. The people decided to collect things from the past, and if they couldn't find the real thing, they'd have one made to look like it. And of course, we do have two Wedgwood pieces, and Wedgwood, of course, was the famous potter from years ago. And now we can leave here and go in through the hall, the small hallway, where we do have a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Buke waiting for you to show up so they could take you on a tour. Usually on Friday afternoons, they opened the house up to people and took them on tours. But if you came on a Wednesday like today, they'd probably take you around. This is the parlor, which was the actual hall or kitchen probably in 1750 when the house was renovated by Elisha Jones Jr., Sr., and he put this paneling in. We're pretty sure this is very elegant paneling. It shows that the person had some money. It was very popular in the Connecticut River Valley about this time. So that's why we think that the renovation was done about 1750. Mr. Buke found this portrait of John Howard Payne in an antique store in Boston while he was scouring for Payne artifacts. This was painted of Payne right before he went to Tunisia. Also the sword Mr. Buke found, it was given to Mr. Payne by Samuel Colt of the Colt Firearms Factory. They were good friends. Down here on this table in the 1920s, a man owned a music store in East Hampton, and he gives this to Mr. Payne. It's a music box, and he gives it to Mr. Payne because it plays Home Sweet Home. The first music boxes usually just played operatic airs, but later on, this is about 1850, they stopped making these after 1850. Another feature of this room is the corner cabinet, very popular in America in about 1720. And in it, of course, is filled with more lusterware. And if you look around the room, you see these columns. This indicates that the person had wealth. This is a very big room. So we think that the house was put in this shape, in this condition, in 1750 by Elisha Jones. Then when Mr. Buke came, what he had to do, for example, the floors were all sagging. He had to send to Connecticut for this wood to try to match what was here before. He came close, but when we go upstairs, you'll see that the really wide boards are probably from the 1750s. And then Mr. Buke opened this up to make a little study for himself. And this is where he put the oldest furniture we have in the house. This is called pilgrim furniture, and it is actually from the 17th century, with replacement parts, of course, here and there. So everything in here is basically a little bit older than the rest of the house. And if you go around, you're going to see here, he has the famous Mulliner chest, a 1640 piece done in Connecticut. It was in the Osborne family for many years. And he bought it in 1924, but it has replacement parts in it, just like we would have if we were born in 1640. The desk is a 1709 box desk. You can move this around from room to room. Sometimes people did have a box like this, only it was more rectangular or square, and they would put their Bibles in it. So I put some Bibles in here, but this is not a Bible box. This is actually a desk with a writing surface here. And Mr. Buke used to have his coffee in here in the morning. I think now we could go upstairs. Be careful, because it's very steep, very winding. We go up here. Now, when you come in here, the first thing you have to notice are these floors. Look at the boards. These are very, very wide. We think these are the original 1750 boards that were put in the house by Elisha Jones. And Mr. Buke did the best he could to kind of match them down below. Another highlight of this room is this high chest. There are no closets in this, one closet in this whole house. They were expensive to build, and people didn't have a lot of clothes, so they would get one chest and fill it, just stuff it full of clothes. And they also had a clothes closet built. That's why armoires were built. This is a 20th century clothes closet. By the way, we are in the bedroom of Mr. and Mrs. Buke. They did stay here in the summer, and then in the winter they went back to Brooklyn. Also in the house, careful, are the hook rugs. There's a huge collection of hook rugs. This is a typical hook rug. Typical flowers are on it. These are about 150 years old. There's also a quilt collection and a sampler collection in Home Sweet Home that we will be putting out from time to time. And so this was the main bedroom, and then if you walk across the hall, you'll see the guest bedroom. And one of the highlights in here is the sailor's valentine. Years ago, when men were on whaling voyages, on the way back they would stop at some of these islands, and the natives there would make these, sell them to bring back to their wives or loved ones. And this one, this sailor's valentine has Home Sweet Home. And that pretty much is our tour. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And remember, mid pleasures and palaces though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home.